Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Co-op Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's going good. And yeah, I mean, like lately it's been very slow and everything, like after E3, things tend to slow down in terms of gaming news and, discussion and everything. But it's still good to be here once a week at least just to discuss some topics at least. So yeah, good to be here.
Absolutely. And as for today's show, it would only be Gary and I because, as we said, everybody has other things that is going on right now within their schedules, and there isn't really going to be too much to talk about. So figure that it will just be me and him for today, and we will see what the future holds. But that's pretty much it for introductions. So before we get into the very small list of news stories this week, we're going to let you all know what we have been playing. So Gary, how about you go first and let us know what you've been playing?
This is gonna be a very quick conversation because all I've been playing this week is, of course, you guessed it, Overwatch. And yeah, I mean, I don't have too much more to report on that. They still haven't added the new character yet officially. I think it may be coming in the next week or something like that. But yeah, he's still not there. But the Overwatch League is back and it's in playoffs right now. So they're actually playing today actually, and we're gonna see. It's gonna determine which team is actually going to be in the grand finals, and I will be at the grand finals, so I'm looking forward to that. But besides that, not much else to report. And I didn't really get to play anything else this week, so yeah.
Oh, well, I fully understand that. I probably should have mentioned this at the top of the show. I do apologize that I was not here last week as I actually attended a wedding in Miami, Florida. So that was a very nice ceremony, a very great experience. So yeah, definitely food for thought. But I did get a chance to play quite a bit of things. I just haven't been able to talk about it on the show. So first and foremost, I'm going to give a shout out to Ramis, who was actually supposed to be on today's show. I finally finished Batman Telltale Season 2. And I believe that Ramis also had said that he very much enjoyed that season finale. I have to say, to me, this season is far and away better than season 1 of Batman. Only because they really tried to do something different with the Joker character. You felt as though some decisions that you made, it really did impact the Joker to some extent in terms of the type of Joker you had to deal with, because they had a vigilante Joker and then they had just a straight up the psychotic Joker that we all know and love. And I tried to befriend Joker on my playthrough. Obviously, it still led to confrontation in the end because of certain things that happened within the storyline. But I really, really like how the writers handled the season. And then, of course, at the end of the season, spoiler alert for those who haven't played, you do have a choice as to whether or not you still want to be Batman at the end. So I decided to make Alfred feel better, to just say, well, no, I'm not going to be Batman anymore. Now, I'm very curious to see how they explain that. Should they have a season 3, which I'm pretty sure they will at some point, but that is not really at the top of their list right now, at least as far as next year is concerned. But yeah, I'll be very curious to see how they handle that moving forward now that I did make that decision, because it's a pretty important decision that you make at the end. So
They'll just override it within like the first 2 minutes of the next season. They'll just be like, "Oh yeah, I know I said I'm not going to be Batman anymore, but actually I changed my mind."
oh well, you know what? If I will say this, if they override that decision, then they also will have to do something with Alfred, since he was adamant he didn't want you to be Batman anymore. And that's why I say if they do that, that's fine. But they also need to make sure Alfred actually does step away from the picture and not be at all involved in the show, if that's the direction that they're going to go.
No, they'll just do some lazy writing and be like, Alfred will have a change of heart too, or his life will be in danger, and the only way to save him is to be Batman or something. So
Hey, you know, it's possible, but hopefully not. I hope that, you know, because they had all of the staff redundancies at Telltale, I would like to hope that that actually means that they are going to actually take into account that now we need to just put out better quality products. I know that the news came out that they also have the new engine that they're going to be working with also finally. So I hope,
That's good.
you know, I hope that the quality, it holds up. I mean, we will find out next month because the Walking Dead series finale debuts August 14th. And then next year they have The Wolf Among Us season 2. So hopefully both of those turn out to be great. Especially Walking Dead, because this is the final swan song for that series. So, but
Is
as
it
for that,
is the new engine they're using, is it Unity or something?
I have no idea. I have no idea what they're going to be, what they're actually going to be using. I just
Okay.
know that they said they were going to be making changes because I think they understand that they've been using the same engine for so long, and that you have a lot of technical issues on different console versions because of that engine. So I don't
Yeah,
know what they're
it
using yet.
is. It is Unity. I just checked.
Oh, it is. Okay, see.
That's going to be very interesting to see like how different it is once they start running in Unity.
Oh, absolutely.
But
What's your,
obviously Unity is a more stable and a more tested engine. So like hopefully the game will be a lot less buggy moving forward. So that's
I mean, I hope so. I know a couple of people that I did speak to, they were unable to play Batman Season 1 on PC because of some issues they've had. So I hope that, yeah, I hope all that stuff does get addressed moving forward. You know, but anyone that is thinking about playing Batman Season 2, I will highly recommend you check it out. I'm pretty sure Telltale will probably have a sale on that season as we get deeper into the you know, closer to the end of the year, because they normally have a lot of that stuff on sale. But yeah, if you played season 1, definitely play season 2, and you may enjoy season 2 a lot better than season 1. So that's my recommendation. As for what else I have been playing, I actually attended an event earlier this week, a Warface preview event that took place in San Francisco, California. I had a chance to play Warface. For those of you who don't know, it's a free-to-play first-person shooter, military-based first-person shooter. So this is a game that's going to be coming out. It's already been out on PC. It came out back in 2013. It's coming to PlayStation 4 in August, and to Xbox One in September. So I had a chance to play the console version of the game, and I could say it was a pretty fun experience overall. I actually have a preview that I'm working on that I will have up on the website by the time this particular episode goes live. But I would say I had a lot of fun with it. You know, it is, as I said, a multiplayer based. There was a bit of a raid mode that we played uh, in my little session, which is kind of like you going through different levels of a building and having to take out enemies, and then they throw in, you know, creatures and stuff for you to have to face as well. So it was a lot of fun. Definitely something that you can play with your friends. And again, this is a free-to-play game. It's going to be free on Xbox and PlayStation 4, you know, within the next couple of months. So I definitely say it's worth checking out. If you're looking for something else, I think it's very interesting that the timing of this particular game coming out, because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out later this year in regards to that are pretty much the same, such as Call of Duty, Battlefield 5. So I think they chose a wise decision to come out, you know, in August and September before those games have a chance to drop. However, I did hear yesterday that the beta for Call of Duty Black Ops 4, those dates have been announced, and they are also in August. So we'll see how that turns out. But Warface is great. It's made by you know, it's made with the CryEngine 3. So it ran very well on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I didn't really notice any issues that I would have noticed if I would have played the game. Like, you know, I know when we went to E3, a lot of games we played, they were still early in development, and they crashed. but this didn't crash it at any point in time. It just felt nice, silk, smooth as butter. And yeah, just an overall fun experience. They have a ton of modes, free for all. We did start out with that, which every man for himself. That was interesting, very competitive. And again, I did, like I mentioned, the raid mode, which was a lot of fun as well. So definitely look out for my preview of the game, where I'll go into a little bit more detail about the particular game. But if you do have a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, you might want to consider picking this up. But again, it doesn't cost you anything to at least try it out. But definitely is a lot of fun, and I would be surprised if the game isn't received well by the audience on consoles, because another game that launched free-to-play, H1Z1, not too long ago, that game has become a massive success on PlayStation 4. So I think this is also going to have some success as well. But we'll have to stay tuned for that. But yeah, that pretty much concludes what I've been playing for this week. I did get a chance to pick up Earthfall. Haven't had a chance to play it yet. So I will be talking about that next time. But I haven't heard too many positive things about it. But I'll give a shout out to a couple of people who did tell me about it. I know Eddie V said the game looks horrible, so we'll see if it's horrible. We'll see. But yeah, that's all we've been playing for this week. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump right into some of the few news stories that actually happened this week. First and foremost, we have a story on Star Wars and EA. So Jade Raymond says that fans made a statement about Star Wars. She said that fans only play Star Wars games to learn more than their friends about the universe. I find that to be a very interesting question. Now, Gary, what are your thoughts on her statement? And do you have anything else that you would like to elaborate on, if there's anything else that she said aside from that?
Yeah, coming from her, that's a very interesting statement, I think, considering she's been in kind of been in charge of a Star Wars game, at EA, Visceral and everything like that. So I think it's I don't know how to take it. I feel like she's wrong. But the fact that she's saying that it kind of worries me a bit about the state of EA and their mentality in general, and the mentality of maybe some of their studios, because it's like so the statement she made was basically people only like to play Star Wars games because they want to know more about Star Wars than their friends do. So that she's implying that the type of people who play Star Wars games, they want to know more than their friends know, and their friends might be the type that just go to see the movies and that's it. So she's kind of basically saying, oh, people want to play these games to be nerdy and learn more about Star Wars than everyone else and be pretentious or whatever, when that's not the case, I don't think, because me in particular, I'm just using me as an example here because, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I'm not super invested in the Star Wars universe or anything like that, right? But I love KOTOR, the Knights of the Old Republic. I feel like that's one of the best RPGs ever made, and one of the best BioWare games ever made. And the reason I like to play it is just because it's such a great RPG. And sometimes people just want to play a great game. And especially we've had stuff like Mass Effect and stuff like that. Sci-fi kind of games. I want to play more of them in general. And whether it's Star Wars or it's something completely different, I don't mind really. I'm not that super invested in the lore of Star Wars and everything like that. I can't tell you which character was born when, and what they did in their entire life or whatever, all those different things that people know about the characters and stuff. I can't tell you half those things, but I just really enjoy playing a good game, and I feel like Star Wars is a good it's aesthetically pleasing, and it has some cool characters, it has some cool backstories, it has some cool world building in it. So I feel like there's so much different types of games that could be made in that universe. And it's not just the fact that it's Star Wars that draws me to that and wanting to know more than everybody else. It's just that I want to play a very good game in a good setting, and one that I'm fairly familiar with. So the statement, I don't know, it's a bit weird coming from her, I think, in my opinion, because it's like, okay, if she's saying stuff like that, then what is actually EA's point of view on these games? Like, what are they thinking about? What's their actual approach with these games? Are they just trying to, like, she's basically confirming that they kind of just want to milk it, like, in my opinion. Like, if you read through the subtext and everything, it's like, read between the lines, it feels like she's saying that because that's the influence coming from within EA, and it feels like that's where their state of mind lies at the moment, where basically they just want to serve an audience of people who love Star Wars, but they're not particularly paying any close attention to what they're making. It's just they want to serve that fan base, basically. And I feel like you should be your ideas and your philosophy behind the game should be more developed than just that. So that's my thoughts on that. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that I think the statement is a little off. I think it's okay to say that some of the fan base might be casual. There might be some people that may only be casually interested in Star Wars, and therefore they're talking about making games that cater to them. But really, they should be making games that cater to not just the casuals, but also people who are actually hardcore fans of the series itself. I feel like when you decide to take on a license such as EA took on with this license, you have to know it shouldn't be just about milking the license for all it's worth, but you got to understand that there's a lot of fans that are very, very interested in Star Wars. And if you mess this up, they are going to be the first to have a lot of backlash coming in regards to this particular thing. So I don't know if I agree with her statement at all, because I think they should be in the business of making a game that can appeal to people who are fans of Star Wars, and also who could be potentially coming to the series for the first time, because they have to know that ahead of time, that even if you make a game and it's not quite what somebody would expect from a Star Wars game, the people who are diehard fans of Star Wars, they are absolutely going to complain and come after you and say a lot of bad things. So you got to be prepared for that backlash. I find that comment also interesting because of the fact that, well, we know what happened last year with Battlefront 2 and all of the controversy behind the microtransactions, all that other stuff. The fact that, they still have the Star Wars license is interesting. And, I know that this game, as well as the Respawn game, are also going to be coming out, which are both going to be Star Wars related. I'm very curious to know what Disney thinks of this particular statement. Whether or not they would agree with that, because I do think at some point it has to also take into account that it does have a diehard fan base, and that fan base also deserves to have a great experience as well. But that's just my opinion on the matter.
Yeah, that's true. I just feel like it becomes more apparent, with every kind of statement or every news story that comes out about EA. It just becomes more apparent that this is not the right company to be representing the Star Wars series right now, in my opinion. So yeah, Disney I think they should definitely be concerned. But I mean, hey, they are still working on other Star Wars projects at the moment, besides just the Battlefront stuff. So I guess we have to wait and see what those games are going to be like before we really make a final judgment on EA. But yeah, just the way it's been looking, I feel like they were completely the wrong company to trust these Star Wars games with.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I think that no doubt about it, Disney is going to be keeping a very closeful eye on these other games. I'm telling you, if something happens with the next 2 Star Wars games, the only one I know about coming next is Respawn's game next year. I don't know when this Jade Raymond game is dropping at any time soon, since the project got shelved and pushed back out further. But I'm pretty sure they're watching very closely. They will be watching how these games are received. And if EA messes up again, then I would not be surprised if they get that license away from them as quick as possible.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to know what others think of this particular topic, because it's an interesting statement made by Miss Raymond.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to hear like what other people who are actually Star Wars fans think of the statement as well, and just everyone else out there. But one more thing, like, because I remember Disney had their own game studio, but they shut them down. I feel like what Disney should have did was they should have bought a studio, like maybe like a smaller kind of studio that has a good reputation. For example, Rocksteady or something like that. Now I know Rocksteady work with Warner Brothers, but I'm just trying to give an example of the type of studio they should have gone for. So I feel like they should have bought out a studio and made these Star Wars games in-house, and then had a publishing partner. So like EA could have been a publishing partner to help them publish the game or something like that. Because at least then we know that the vision of the games would probably be more in line with what they're trying to push with the Star Wars brand overall. Whereas the games we've gotten so far from EA, is like they're just trying to milk everything, like the past Star Wars shit with the new Star Wars stuff. Like they're just really trying to milk everything they can. So I think Disney should have definitely taken a different approach.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I just think there was a Disney interactive studio that went out of business. So
oh, they went out of business? I thought they just shut them down.
Yeah, it did get shut down, but it's that company is no longer. I recall getting emails from that company about different games, and then the last I tried to contact them a couple of years ago, that they was gone, they was done, that company was shut down. So I don't really know, but I will say that I think I would like to hope that Disney learned from what happened with EA last year with Battlefront 2, and they have to be very cautious and careful with all of this stuff. We already know, we've had jokes before about EA in the past, how this is a company that they've taken so many studios, games, franchises that we enjoyed and messed them up. And Mass Effect Andromeda, I think, is a very good example of that, because they just completely killed all momentum, no DLC, nothing, and all the technical issues they had with that game is unfortunate that that game had to be a casualty. This is why a lot of people are very curious to see what's going to happen with this particular game, in addition to the Respawn game, because even before, when they released Titanfall 2, they released that in a crowded schedule, and therefore a lot of people didn't pick up the game until much, much later than they would want it. So it hit the sales target that it wanted them to hit. So I feel like EA definitely has to do a lot of goodwill on a lot of these projects, but with Star Wars, it definitely is a cash grab involved, because they already know a lot of people will pick up the game, but they still have to put in the effort to make it a great game. And like I said, I would hope that this game will appeal to not just casuals, but actual people who are fans of the series. Because I think they deserve a great Star Wars game just as much as anybody else. But we'll see, because at the end of the day, it is the business. They only concerned about selling the game, increasing the sales, doing whatever they got to do. Throw some loot boxes in there, microtransactions. So they're gonna do whatever they got to do at the end of the day to survive as a company. But I guess that statement, people should be concerned about it. But I guess, as you said, we'll have to wait and see what this actual game is, because I have no idea when this game is coming out. I would say next year, but that's not the case because we already know the Respawn game is fall of 2019. So this game may not come out until 2020. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and probably by then everybody will be sick and tired of Star Wars anyway, because they've been pumping out so many movies and it's kind of lost its mystique a little bit.
Well, hey, listen, I hope so, because I did go see a Han Solo movie, and that was a complete garbage. So that's an example of doing too much with a license. And I'm glad that Disney did acknowledge they were going to take a step back on some of these other Solo movies, because they know they got to really focus on making a great product. Now, with that said, we'll see how the next Star Wars movie comes out next year, because a lot of people did complain about Last Jedi also, and those complaints are valid. But yeah, I just think too much milking this stuff is never a good idea, unless, of course, you have a strategy in mind and you actually are making quality movies. But Han Solo, that was a complete waste of time, garbage movie all around. So I could only imagine what it looked like before Ron Howard actually turned around and directed it, because it was definitely worse than that. But it is what it is. So we'll see.
Indeed.
All right, so let's move on to the next story. This is actually a story that you know a little bit more about me. I mean, you know a little bit more about it than I do. So why don't you lead off the story?
All right. So yeah, so NDP analyst Matt Piscatella, he actually made a prediction, earlier this week, and he thinks that the Nintendo Switch is going to be the top-selling console of 2018. Now, a lot of people are questioning this because they feel like the momentum of Switch exclusive games is slowing down severely at the moment, compared to last year. When we had Zelda, we had Mario, we had what's that game called? Can't remember, the paintball one. We had I think Smash Bros came out last year as well. Can't remember.
No, Splatoon.
Splatoon, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff that came out for the Switch last year. This year it's kind of been slowing down, so a lot of people are kind of questioning this statement a little bit. But Piscatella's point is that the Switch will be driven by the launches of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, Super Smash Bros, and yeah, that's it. So he thinks those games will be enough to push the system. And also I know there's a lot of third-party games coming to the system too, such as Warframe, and Fortnite came out and things of that nature. But my thing is, I don't think people are going to buy the Switch for those third-party games though. I think they're just nice additions if you have a Switch, because then you can play those games on the go and stuff like that. But what you really buy the system for is the exclusives, and I just feel like the lineup this year does not compare to the lineup last year, because last year's lineup was incredible for the Switch. And yeah, I don't know how I feel. I mean, people are still going out to buy the Switch just because of the potential of the console, and people like having a console on the go, and it has great graphics, and everything. You can play a lot of the most recent games on it on the go and everything like that. So that's enough to get people to go out and buy the console. So I do believe that it is going to sell loads this year, but to say it's going to be the top seller, already, when I mean there's so many games coming out at the bottom half of this year, Red Dead, Spider-Man, all sorts of big blockbuster games are coming out, this fall. And I feel like that might give the edge to the PS4 a little bit. So I don't know. What do you think about the statement, the prediction?
Well, actually, I think his prediction is right on the money, because I know that when we spoke about NPD in the past, you know, at least as far as the last couple of months, uh, the Nintendo Switch titles have been selling very, very well. I know yesterday, Nintendo actually released 2 other titles for Switch, Octopath Traveler, as well as Captain Toad. And I know a lot of people that picked up both those titles. And I've heard nothing but positive things about Octopath Traveler. I actually am also interested in checking that out at some point in time. But I think in terms of it being the best-selling console for the year, I think that is 100% doable because of the fact that you do have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And I can confirm when we went to E3, the amount of people that was excited for that game and wanting to play the game, it was just ridiculously insane. You know, they had a tournament there in which people were able to play it, and then even you can also participate as press to actually play some of this stuff as well. So I think that game is without a doubt a big deal for Nintendo. They may have a couple of other titles that they haven't really been quite as clear or concrete on, because I should say that I didn't get a chance to see the Nintendo Direct during E3 because I had an appointment with another publisher at that time, so I don't really know what they have coming this fall. All I know is that Super Smash Bros. Obviously, that's December, right as soon as December kicks off, so that's going to be perfect. And that's definitely going to sell well for the holiday season because of that game. But I just think with the Switch coming out last year, yeah, there's no doubt about it. They had a better lineup of games last year because you had Zelda and Mario the same year, and that it normally never happens like that. So yeah, the lineup may not be quite as impressive as that, but I still think Smash Brothers is a big deal. I think Octopath Traveler is a pretty big deal, and then them basically re-releasing all these other games, still. I think all that is a big deal. You know, Bayonetta 3, we have no idea when that's coming out. I know Nintendo hasn't really provided any updates on that. We also have that No More Heroes game that I believe both myself and Mr. Lugo got a chance to check out at both PAX West and PAX East. That is a game that's in development as well for people who are fans of Suda 51 games. So I think Nintendo definitely can be the top-selling console this year. Now, in regards to PlayStation, they do have Spider-Man coming, but I do believe Spider-Man is going to sell very, very well. But I don't really think that a lot of people are going to necessarily buy a PlayStation 4. I think a lot of people have already bought the PlayStation 4s, and they're definitely going to buy the game. But I don't really know how many consoles it's going to sell, because I assume that everybody already has a PlayStation 4, except for maybe one person that you and I know that doesn't have one. Yeah,
that person will never have one.
Oh yeah, he will never have one unless Halo comes to PlayStation, which will never happen. So, but you know, I mean, Sony has a lot of the same third-party games coming to their platform that are also coming to Xbox this fall. You know, Call of Duty, Red Dead. All that stuff is multi-platform. I just don't know if it's going to be enough during the holiday season to really compete with Nintendo, because Nintendo has that big exclusive of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I really think that's going to definitely move a lot of units. And then the other thing I would say is that last year, I don't really think everybody bought a Switch last year. I didn't get a Switch until close to the end of the year. So I would assume that a lot of people maybe they wanted to buy it for Zelda, and then they were on the fence, but then they wanted to buy it for Mario. They were still on the fence. But with Smash Brothers, they may just say, oh, yeah, I definitely want to get it now. And we already know Nintendo is going to definitely have a bundle with Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. So I think that is going to definitely help them to become the best-selling console. But we'll have to wait and see. But I don't think the statement is off. I think it certainly it depends on what happens over the next couple of months and whether or not Nintendo has some other games coming that they reveal are also coming this year. Because again, I didn't see the Nintendo Direct, so I have no idea what else they have coming aside from Smash for this upcoming fall. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. As for Microsoft, you know, Microsoft does have Forza coming. They have a lot of the indie titles that are also coming. Do I think somebody is going to buy an Xbox One for Forza? I don't think so, personally. I would say it's a fantastic game, but I know the game won't appeal to everybody because people may not be racing game fans. Would I buy an Xbox One X for Forza? Yeah, I would, but not everybody. But I don't really think that's going to be what moves a lot of Xboxes this fall either. It has to be a major title. Now, if Microsoft was to drop Halo, that Halo Infinite game this fall, that's a different story. Then I think Microsoft 100%, you can put them right in this discussion. But as of right now, I would say no. Forza, it's going to do well sales-wise. At least I'm hoping it does well. But is that enough for someone to say, oh, I need to get an Xbox One X? I don't think so. So we'll have to wait and see. But Nintendo, yeah, I think they have a chance. So for now, I'll agree with the statement, and we'll see what happens this fall. But what are some other thoughts that you have?
I mean, yeah, I definitely see your point. I do think it's possible, definitely for sure. Like, I feel like it's definitely possible. It's just, I mean, I don't know, like, the Nintendo fan base, you know, they love Nintendo. I mean, but the thing is, the fan base, I'm pretty sure the fan base already has the system, so it's like they look like the new sales are probably going to come from the more casual people or just people who kind of held off, I guess, for more games to come out. But I feel like the bulk of people would have bought it last year because, you know, just having Zelda and Mario at like the same year, like that is insane in itself. So I feel like that's why the sales just took off initially because those two powerhouses came out, and, you know, Splatoon is picking up traction as well, and we know Smash Bros is coming and stuff. So um but like, I don't know, like it just feels like there isn't enough throughout the year. I mean, Smash Bros is the end of the year according like to what you said and stuff. I'm not actually sure when Pokemon comes out. Is that this fall as well?
Oh yeah, yeah, that game is definitely coming out this fall.
Okay.
But like I said, if it was in the Nintendo Direct, I don't know what the date was they announced, but it's definitely coming this fall.
Okay. Yeah, Pokemon, I guess that is something. Like, I don't know what the reception was to that game though, because I really need to know more about what people thought of the actual game, like if they were, you know, amazed by it and stuff like that. Because I know a lot of people were waiting for the announcement of a Pokemon game on Switch, including me. But from what they showed, I don't know if I'm that interested, to be honest. Like, it's not what I expected it to be. So I want to know what the reception to Pokemon was from a lot of the fan base, because that could definitely be a determining factor in, you know, how much more systems they're going to sell when that game comes out. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible either way.
Oh yeah, definitely. And as I said, there very well could be some other titles that Nintendo decides to have a direct for. They could have a direct anytime between now and in the end of summer and announce, oh yeah, and we have a few these other titles coming this fall. So I guess it all depends what other games they have coming. But again, I've heard nothing but positive things about Octopath Traveler so far from multiple people. So I think that's great. That's definitely going to do well. I don't understand why the Captain Toad game came out the exact same day. They probably should have stretched that out a little bit further. I would have thought, but hey, it's on them. This is their schedule, what they want to do with these games. But we'll have to wait and see how everything pans out. But I definitely think it is 100% possible that could be the top selling console. Only because we're only in the second year that it's been out. For some reason, there are some people out there that haven't gotten a Switch. I know you don't have a Switch yet, and I recall you said you would get it for Pokemon though. So see that is there's a lot of people out there that probably still don't have a Switch and want a reason to get it, but they might be waiting on something else, such as Smash Brothers or Pokemon. So just have to wait and see. But with that said, I definitely think that there's a lot of great games coming out regardless of what console you have this fall. So, you know, I don't really think anybody's going to be complaining about content because there's literally a lot of stuff to play. Whether it's Red Dead Redemption, Black Ops, Battlefield 5, Forza. I mean, the list goes on. There's a lot of stuff coming out this fall. So I think everybody will be satisfied with that, at least. But we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. Definitely want to hear more comments about that. So you guys listening, leave your comments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And I think we have one final topic to get into here. This is going to be a very interesting discussion because I'm not necessarily prepared for this particular answer.
I can introduce this one if you want.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, it's a slow time for video games. You know, E3's gone already. We know all the new announcements and everything like that. It's the summer drought. We all know what it is, you know. So I decided to, you know, we should, for the next few episodes leading into September and everything, we should just have some fun discussions about games, you know, about classic games and, you know, all sorts. So one of the topics we came up with this week was to, you know, rank our top 3 Grand Theft Auto video games, because me and Rich, we're both huge fans of the GTA series. So I thought it would be quite fun for us to, you know, basically list our top 3 in order, you know, GTA games, and just say why, you know, that is our order. So, I mean, I have my order already. Would you like me to go first, Richard, or do you have?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my order is, and I definitely want to hear more as well. So you people listening, make sure you're leaving your comments and everything. Let us know, you know, what your order is, what your rank is for the GTA games. But my order, so I'm gonna go from 3 to number 1, so backwards. So at number 3, I'm actually gonna go GTA 5. You know, that's my number 3 Grand Theft Auto game. And the game, it was really good. You know, it's the latest GTA to come out, so it's updated technology. It's, you know, it's compared to what we're used to with all the previous GTA games. It's, you know, it's got so much more technical detail. You know, the visuals are incredible. Of course, there were multiple versions, and I feel like even on the PS3 and the Xbox One, the game looked phenomenal. But when they brought it to PS4 and Xbox One and PC, it looked that much better too. And you know, that in itself is impressive. It has GTA Online, which is very fun. The only thing setting it back a little bit is the microtransaction stuff, like the buy to play kind of thing that they've added recently. I think the heists were amazing. It's just that, you know, you really need friends to play that mode with, which is unfortunate because, you know, if you try to play with randoms and stuff like that, you're going to run into problems with people leaving and just, you know, being uncoordinated. So you have to really get a group of friends to play the heists, and that takes a lot of effort sometimes. But the mode itself is amazing, you know. And as for the main game, I feel like the story was really good. I liked the idea of switching between the 3 main protagonists and everything. That was a really cool addition, and I hope they adopt that in future games too. So yeah, I mean, GTA 5, it brought a lot to the series, and I feel like it presents a lot for them to build upon for the future as well. So yeah, that's definitely number 3 on my list for GTA. So my number 2, and I have a very sentimental reason for putting it above GTA 5, but my number 2 is GTA 3, because, you know, that was really like, I just kind of got a PS2, which was my second games console. Like my first one was Dreamcast, second one was PS2, and PS2 I think was really when I like it's when I started to play a lot of the games that I love to this day, kind of thing, like, you know, Final Fantasy and GTA 3, and, you know, like, it's just the game was so monumental for its time, and I feel like it was a real game changer. Like after GTA 3, there was so many open world games. Like that's when we started to see the emergence of open world games on a large scale. Like there was so many imitations of GTA 3, and that still happens to this day. And I feel like that game, it was really the one that set the standard for that, you know, for the sandbox game and everything. And I just have so many memories of it, and I love everything about it, from the radio stations to the funny things that the pedestrians say to the funny storylines and stuff like that. Like it felt like they wasn't taking themselves seriously at all when they made the game. Like they were just having fun, and it really shows in the presentation and, you know, the style of the game. I feel like they started to get a lot more serious about the series after that. They put a lot more detail into stories and, you know, all the technical stuff and gameplay mechanics and everything like that. But GTA 3 was really just, you know, it was like the template, it was like the foundation. And it's just, even to this day, it's so fun to just go back to and just play and see what that game did at that time when it came out. So yeah, for that reason, it's number 2 on my list. Um, and my number 1, I'm sure, like, you know, that a lot of people are probably going to say this is their number 1. I'm interested to see what Richard is going to say actually, but GTA San Andreas is my number 1. And yeah, I mean, what can I say, man? Like that GTA 3 was great. Vice City was really good too, but everything about San Andreas was perfect. Like the setting, the environment, the you know, the characters, and of course, you know, being brothers and everything. Like we completely identify with, you know, everything that, you know, that's presented with the characters and everything like that. And I feel like Rockstar actually took a risk telling that kind of story, you know, and going in that direction, because they could have alienated a ton of their fan base, but they stayed true to what they were trying to do. And, you know, they had a clear vision of what they wanted to tell, and, you know, this the story, and they stuck to it. They stuck to their guns, and they did it, you know, and it came out really well, and it felt really authentic to, you know, Southside LA, you know, South Central LA, and how it was it portrayed in the 90s and everything, and in different movies like Boys in the Hood and, you know, Menace to Society and things like that. You know, they stayed very true to that, and I feel like it came out great. And just everything about the game is perfect, from the gang wars to the huge selection of clothes and the RPG elements that they introduced. Like I was still surprised that they managed to put that game on the PS2, just because it had so much. That game had, like, the games at that point were not giving that much content in the games, you know? So yeah, that game was, it was a masterpiece, to be honest. So yeah, that's my Grand Theft Auto list. So what's yours? Do you have any comments?
Those were great picks. It's going to be very hard to make my list different from yours, because you've already said a lot of great points. No, I think that's a solid list. The top list, the top pick, yeah, the top pick onward. I agree with all of that. So that's good. Now, as for my personal picks, mine's are not too different from yours. Although I will say this, I really, really enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5. I feel like they have evolved the series to a point where they're starting to do a lot more with different characters, stuff like that. So for that reason, I think it should be an honorable mention, and at the very least. But you know, I will admit that I did get a chance to play through most of Grand Theft Auto 5, but I never completely finished Grand Theft Auto 5. So for that reason, I don't want to give it a number quite yet. I mean, I still intend to finish it before the next Grand Theft Auto game comes out. But for right now, I definitely think it is impressive on its own. So I will, at the very least, say let's give it an honorable mention. As for my top three, number three, I'm gonna go with Grand Theft Auto 3 also because I think when I started playing Grand Theft Auto games, this was easily one of the first that I did get a chance to play, where I actually was able to play on a console, and I remember being very amazed by all the things that they were doing with that particular game. Never would have imagined they would take it as far as they've done so far with everything. And we could say the storyline was pretty basic in terms of what they did, but they did so many great things with that. I felt like that absolutely positively was great in every way imaginable. So just because that was one of my first experiences, and as you had already said, that set the standard for open world games to a certain extent. I definitely want to at least put that on my list as number three. Now this is where it's going to get a little interesting. My number two pick, I know people will hate me for saying this. I have to go with Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The reason why
that's not a bad pick, but go ahead.
Okay, well, the reason why I say Vice City, just from my own personal standpoint, this was when I really started to take notice of how they put music in the game. Is in regards to the soundtracks.
Oh yeah,
I remember that this one song called "Get Down" is Saturday Night. I remember I listened to that song. And I enjoyed the music so much in Grand Theft Auto that I actually downloaded the music later and was listening to it in my car. So,
they had a lot of hits in that soundtrack. I think that was the first time they actually started licensing music. So
yeah,
they had a lot of great songs.
That definitely makes sense if that is the case with the licensing of the music at that particular time. But yeah, that. The soundtrack was great. Then the story was relatable also because it very much reminded me of Scarface, in the rise of the character, how the character starts out and then, becomes a figure towards the end. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. The Miami setting was kind of like Miami type of setting. Yeah, I really enjoyed that game. That is a game that I don't know how many times I've played it. I've gone back to it, just kept going back to it. When I had first gotten it. So I definitely think that definitely deserves to be on the list. Only because, yeah, again, it's an evolution of what they did with Grand Theft Auto 3. They show they can do a lot more. I remember getting vehicles in the game, doing all types of crazy stuff. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed the game. So I absolutely positively have to say that's my number two. And as for number one, this is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. I also have to say San Andreas is number one. However, I want to say this. I cannot discredit Grand Theft Auto 4 either because Nico Bellic, I really enjoyed the hell out of that game. But if you're talking about, in the top picks of what I enjoy more, hands down is San Andreas. Not only just because of the stuff that you mentioned and how it felt in terms of the storytelling, but this is a game where I was just glad to see that they had a black protagonist because I believe this is one of those games where they didn't really have too many different protagonists in different video games that were actually black around this time. I could be wrong, but I don't really, because that was a while ago. But it stood out to me because it was a Grand Theft Auto game, and normally it's just the characters always look the same. But this right here, I definitely felt a lot more. I was able to relate to the characters a lot more because of the fact that where it took place. I was a big fan of hip hop around that time as well. But yeah, it just, to me, everything clicked on all together. I know, and it's one of those games where I always wonder if they would bring that back, or they would bring back some of those characters in future games. I know a lot of people was campaigning to see CJ make an appearance in some future content for another game. That never happened. So, I mean, I would like to hope that eventually we can see this characters come back. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed that game. without a doubt, that has to be my number one. But again, I don't want to discredit. Rockstar has done a phenomenal job on all of these games. You know, Ballad of Gay Tony was fantastic. That was actually one of the first games I reviewed for the Koalition. So I enjoyed that, as well as the biker game as well that they did for, I think it's Lost in the Damned. Yeah. So the Rockstar has done a great job with all these games. You know, it makes me very curious to see how they're going to treat Grand Theft Auto 6. But without a doubt, those are my top three: San Andreas, Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah, those are definitely good picks, man. And like going back to Vice City, like I definitely feel like, oh, there's a bit of an echo. Hold on.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, it's gone. Yeah, I definitely feel like Vice City hands down had the best soundtrack, and the soundtrack really made the game, and it just went so well with the theme, the whole 80s vibe and everything. And I feel like it was definitely a great game. What really held that game back from being on my list was the missions in that game were so frustrating. Like, oh my, like they were
Oh yeah.
they were painful. Like some of them, there was like tons of like airplane helicopter missions, like, and they were just really frustrating. And they had like, I remember they had the little remote controlled helicopters and stuff, and you had to like get bombs with them or something like that. Like they had all those kinds of different annoying missions in that game, and I think that's what really you know, soured me on it a little bit. But in terms of the overall theme and everything like that, like the presentation, that game definitely is phenomenal. And also GTA 4, I know a lot of people give that game some stick too, but I like, the reason I really love GTA 4 is because New York is probably like my favorite city, because I love skyscrapers and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And that's like the most accurate, you know, representation of New York. You know, it's Liberty City, but it's based on New York City. And of course, because GTA 3 was set in, you know, well, I mean, it came out in a different era of gaming. They were limited to, you know, how they could portray, you know, New York City at that time, because they couldn't go too crazy because of the technology and stuff. But with GTA 4, it's way more accurate, and, you know, it actually resembles the real New York, you know. So that's what I love about that game, and I feel like that game had some really good missions too. I know everyone complains about the driving; that kind of was a pain in the ass a little bit. But I do want to say that they had some great DLC expansions for that game, though.
Oh yeah.
Like you mentioned before. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And I really enjoy Nico as a character. That was great to see how that story unfolded. But yeah, I understand the frustration that you mentioned with that, as well as Vice City. Definitely challenging, but all fun games. And like I said, it makes me very curious to see what Rockstar is going to do different for Grand Theft Auto 6. I know at one point there was a rumor that they're actually going to have a female protagonist. And I know that in the past, Grand Theft Auto has they got a little bit of a slack for how they portray the women in the game. So, you know, maybe that's not a bad idea, since it seems to be a female protagonist in almost every game now. But
those people who complain, though, they I can tell they never really played the games, because remember Catalina from GTA 3? Like she was, she was a bad chick, man. Like she was a strong character, man. For real.
Oh no, you're right about that. You're right about that. No, I think it's those people that make those complaints. They only see when you have the instances where you can have sex with the characters or whatever. They only see that portrayal. They don't look at how the other women are treated within the game, and if they're also characters and how they play into the story. So I think that is the issue. But we'll definitely see what they do for the next game. Again, I feel like I'm not really sure what they're going to choose in terms of setting. They could potentially go to a different location, or they could potentially go back to a place we've already seen. But I'm very curious to see what they do when it actually gets to that point. That won't be for a while though, because Red Dead Redemption, that's coming out in October, and that's all they're focused on right now. So, but we'll see what happens down the road. Sure.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So, any other things you wanted to bring up before we get ready to wrap up today's show?
No, that was pretty much it. That was a fun discussion, but yeah, that's it from me.
Oh yeah. So we definitely thank you all for listening. I know the show ran maybe a little bit shorter than normal, but you know, as we said before, that there isn't really too much news right now because this is the summer drought. So I mean, I would definitely encourage you all. I mean, there are some games if you guys want to play. Like I said, Octopath Traveler is out now. If you want to play any games, definitely play some games. If you want to just take it easy and chill out and relax and enjoy the summer, I think you should do that too. But yes, as I said, that concludes the show for this week. So we thank you all for listening. I want to give a special shout out to, I'll give a special shout out to all of the Patreon supporters, which I'm sure Gary will do as well. Give a shout out to Dana and Adam. We recorded a WrestleCast last night, Extreme Rules 2018 predictions. Definitely check that out if you're interested, and let us know who you think is going to win these matches. Absolutely. And yeah, just give a shout out to you, Gary, as well, for recording the show with me today.
No doubt. No doubt. We're always here, man. So, yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, the floor is yours now for shout outs.
Yeah. So, like Richard said, big shouts to all of our Patreon supporters. I'm going to name them right now. That's M. Collins, Sean Gority, Stephen Firon, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Miguel, and Antonio Rogers. We appreciate you all for your continued support of the Co-op podcast and the Koalition, all together. So thanks to all of those people. And, shouts to everyone who's listening to the show, on YouTube and iTunes and all those other, various mediums, Stitcher and everything. And shouts to the whole Koalition team, Throwdown podcast and everything, and Dana, Max, JJ, Tatiana, all the other staff members and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Absolutely. Yes. So once again, thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you all next week.